before Rome built its first stone road, before Greece raised its marble temples to the gods. There was an empire, vast, powerful, and black, rising from the red sands of the Nile. An empire so old that its kings ruled while Europe was still learning to shape bronze. So advanced that its architects carved temples that still stand. Its queens commanded armies, and its scholars mapped the stars. Yet today, you won't find its name in your school books, because this empire didn't fit the story they wanted to tell. It wasn't conquered by Europe, it inspired it. And when the world realized who truly came first, they buried it beneath centuries of silence. But the sands of Africa keep their secrets. And now, those secrets are speaking again. They called it the Kingdom of Shadows, but its real name was older than any language carved in stone. Before marble rose in Rome, before Greece carved its first statue of Zeus, there was another world, one the deserts have almost erased, a world of red sand and gold rivers, of kings who ruled before civilization had a name. They called it Ta Seti, the land of the bow, the first kingdom to ever rise along the Nile. It was not just a kingdom, it was a heartbeat, a pulse that spread north, shaping Egypt, and echoing far beyond Africa. But this story doesn't begin in books. It begins with whispers, carried on desert winds. Because even now, when the wind howls across the Sudanese dunes, villagers claim you can still hear the songs of Ta Seti, the drums, the chants, the cries of warriors long turned to dust. They say when you stand among the ruins of old Nubia, you can feel the ground hum, like the earth itself is trying to speak. And maybe it is, because buried beneath those shifting sands lies something the world was never meant to see. Archaeologists found black stone temples carved so precisely. Their angles matched the stars. They uncovered chambers where golden masks rested on royal skulls, their faces dark as the earth that birthed them. One temple bore an inscription, so old, even hieroglyphics looked modern beside it. The translation read, "We are the children of the first sun, the keepers of time, the guardians of memory." No one knew what it meant, but the locals had a name for that place, Maruamonius, the kingdom of the first sun. They said its capital wasn't built on earth alone. It was built in alignment with heaven. Every pillar cast its shadow where the sun met the equinox. Every shrine opened to a star. And at its center, a great obsidian pyramid, polished so perfectly that at dawn, it reflected the entire sky. Legends say when the sun rose above that pyramid, its light stretched for miles, touching even the distant sands that would one day become Egypt. But Maruamonius was more than beauty. It was power. Its people mastered bronze while others still shaped stone. They traded ivory, gold, myrrh, and lapis. Their ships sailed the Nile. Their caravans reached the Red Sea. And at its throne sat rulers whose names are nearly lost. Except for one, Queen Narikath, a warrior queen. Her name means she who carries the flame of the gods. The ancients said she led armies draped in white, marching beneath banners of black and gold. It's said that when Egypt's early kings sought alliances, they didn't send emissaries to Rome or Greece. They bowed south, toward her. For centuries, Maruamonius thrived. Its scholars studied the stars. Its physicians mastered healing from desert herbs. Its builders raised temples so massive that even today, satellite images can trace their foundations beneath the sand. But greatness is rarely left unchallenged. When new empires rose, hungry and envious, they sought to claim Africa's light as their own. They called it barbaric. They labeled its monuments mysteries. And when they couldn't explain them, they rewrote them. Egypt was painted white, Kush was ignored, and Maruamonius, the kingdom that came before them all, was erased, its records destroyed, its history recast as myth. For centuries, silence covered its name, until one day, in 1938, a team of archaeologists digging near Jebel Barkal found a shard of black stone. On it, faint carvings, a woman, a crown, a bow, and a sun. It matched no known Egyptian style. Its language, undeciphered. And at the bottom of the slab, in ancient script, two haunting words. The First Empire. That discovery was quickly locked away, labeled undetermined origin. But those who saw it said one thing. It looked too advanced to belong to its time. So, what happened to Maruamonius? How could an empire that grand vanish so completely? Some say the desert swallowed it whole. Others believe its people scattered, becoming the ancestors of Kush, Nubia, and Aksum. But there's another theory, one the elders still whisper around fires at night. They say Meruomoneus didn't fall. It hid. Its rulers, foreseeing what was to come, sealed their capital beneath the sand, a vault of knowledge waiting for its children to return. And if that's true, then somewhere beneath those golden dunes lies not just an empire, but the proof that Africa's light burned long before the West ever claimed to discover civilization. Because before the pyramids of Giza, before the rise of Rome, before history chose who would be remembered, there was Meruomoneus, the kingdom of the first sun, the place where memory was born. The story of Meruomoneus did not end in dust. It began in light. At its peak, the empire stretched beyond the Nile, from the Emerald Mountains of Ethiopia to the shores of the Red Sea. A network of golden roads linked its cities, and travelers from faraway lands, Arabia, India, even early Europe, came seeking its wisdom. They called it the land where the sun never dies, because when the rest of the world slept, Meruomoneus shone. Its capital rose like a vision from a dream. Black stone walls, carved with sacred spirals, temples plated with bronze so polished they caught fire when dawn broke. At the center stood the Great Pyramid of Ammonius, taller than any monument Rome would build for another 1,000 years. But it wasn't built to praise men. It was built to praise time itself. Inside, priests and astronomers gathered each solstice to study the movements of stars, charting calendars so accurate that even today, modern scientists still marvel at how they measured them. And above them, the symbol of the empire, a golden sun encircled by 12 rays. Each ray represented a realm of knowledge. Medicine, mathematics, navigation, music, philosophy, art, agriculture, spirituality, war, peace, nature, time, and balance. Because to them, power meant nothing without balance. While the empires of the north built armies to conquer, Meruomoneus built cities to enlighten. Their healers mastered surgery with copper blades. Their scholars used reeds to write early scripts on papyrus long before Greece recorded its first laws. They even had libraries, vast chambers of scrolls stacked floor to ceiling, containing secrets of stars, earth, and spirit. And unlike other kingdoms, women weren't confined to shadows. They ruled. They led armies. They decided the fate of nations. One of them was Queen Narikath, the flame of the gods. History almost erased her name, but not her legend. They say she rode into battle with the sun painted on her shield, her armor gleaming white, and her voice echoing across the dunes like thunder. Under her reign, Meruomoneus reached its highest glory. Merchants carried its gold to Egypt and Arabia. Its soldiers protected caravans across the Sahara. And its builders, they created something that still puzzles the world today. A power said to draw energy from the sun itself. Ancient tablets call it the heart of Ra, a crystal pyramid hidden within the city's temple complex that harnessed sunlight to illuminate the palace at night. Some claim it was spiritual, others scientific. But the few who've seen the ruins say that even now, after thousands of years, the stones around its base still shimmer with faint light when the sun sets. But with light came envy. Word of this empire's brilliance reached foreign ears. Traders from the north returned home with tales of black kings in gold crowns, cities shining under endless sun, and queens whose wisdom made men bow. To Rome and Greece, it was unthinkable. How could a people they called primitive build something greater than their own? So they borrowed its ideas, claimed its symbols, and centuries later, when their empires rose, they called them their own. The column, the obelisk, the calendar, the pyramid, they all had their birth in Africa. But when Europe told the story of civilization, they left out the name Meruomoneus. Still, power leaves traces, even when erased. When explorers uncovered ancient Greek temples, they found carvings of dark-skinned envoys presenting gifts to the gods. When Egyptian tombs were opened, they found gold with the same spiral patterns carved in Meruomoneus ruins. And deep beneath a Roman basilica, a single artifact was found, a medallion depicting the sun with 12 rays. The same symbol once engraved on the throne of Queen Narikath. Coincidence? Or stolen memory? Because history isn't always lost. Sometimes it's hidden. They can hide names, destroy scrolls, burn temples, but they can't erase the truth carved into stone. And if you listen to the whisper of the wind over the Nile, if you close your eyes as the desert hums under a setting sun, you might still hear it. The voice of an empire that once ruled the world before the world began. We are the children of the first sun. We are the memory they cannot kill. That was the age of glory, when Africa ruled the light, when the world followed her shadow, and when human history was written in black stone under a golden sky. The empire of Mnemonius glowed like a second sun above the world. But every light draws a shadow. From the north came whispers, whispers of men who feared what they could not match. To them, Mnemonius was not a miracle. It was a threat. Because if the world learned that the first great civilization was African, then everything they built their power on would tremble. At first, the invasion was not with swords. It began with stories. Merchants returned to the north carrying gold stamped with the sun symbol of Mnemonius. Priests in foreign temples called it heresy. They said, "No kingdom of the south can shine brighter than the gods of the north." And slowly, word by word, they began to rewrite the truth. But lies have legs only when men carry them, and soon, armies did. Greek envoys came disguised as scholars. They drew the maps, copied the scripts, and took the symbols home. Then Rome followed, with shields of iron and hearts of ambition. They marched through Nubia's burning sands, not just seeking land, but legacy. They stripped gold from temple doors, broke tablets, melted statues, and when they reached the heart of Mnemonius, they found the great pyramid of Ammonius still gleaming in the dawn. The Romans stared in silence. How could a people they called savages build something that dwarfed their own gods? Their general, according to fragments found centuries later, gave a single order: let the desert reclaim it. And so they did. They sealed the entrances. They burned the libraries. Scrolls that held the science of the stars turned to ash in seconds. And the priests, keepers of memory, were taken in chains to Alexandria, forced to teach their captors what they once taught kings. But even that wasn't enough. Centuries later, when Rome fell and Europe rose again in new names and new crowns, the war against memory continued, quietly, elegantly, with ink. Historians redrew timelines. They wrote of Egypt, but not of Kush. They spoke of Rome's glory, but never of the empires that taught Rome to dream. When artists painted ancient queens, they painted their skin pale. When explorers uncovered black statues, they called them burnt by the sun. The invisible war had begun. It was not fought with weapons, but with pens, maps, and silence. Missionaries arrived centuries later, holding Bibles and banners. They told Africa its people had no past worth remembering. They pointed to the ruins and said, "These could not be yours." And slowly, the children of the first sun began to forget the warmth of their own light. Yet, the land remembered. In 1820, British explorers crossing the Nubian desert found colossal heads half buried in sand. Faces broad, lips proud, eyes carved toward the rising sun. They didn't fit the story Europe had written, so the photographs were hidden in archives for nearly a century. Later, when archaeologists uncovered the ruins of Napata and Meroe, they found patterns identical to those described in the legends of Mnemonius. Sun circles, spiral crowns, queens seated beside kings. And one inscription, faint but undeniable: "We fell not by battle, but by forgetting." The invisible war was never about land. It was about memory. Because to control history is to control identity. And if you make a people forget who they were, they'll never know what they can become. But history has a pulse. And no matter how deep it's buried, truth keeps breathing beneath the dust. Every year, the wind uncovers a little more stone. Every dig reveals another piece of a story too powerful to stay hidden. And now, piece by piece, the world is realizing that the first empire they tried to erase was never lost. It was only waiting for a generation unafraid to listen, waiting for a people ready to remember. And that is where we stand today. For centuries, the kingdom of the first sun was buried beneath silence. Its stones slept, its kings forgotten, its queens erased. But the earth never forgets, and time has a way of remembering. It began with whispers, tiny clues scattered across the desert, carvings on forgotten cliffs, symbols etched in temples far from Egypt's reach, patterns that didn't match any known dynasty. In 1902, An archaeologist named George Reisner uncovered a series of pyramids in the Nubian desert. Smaller than Giza's, yes, but older, darker, carved from black sandstone. Inside, he found royal crowns, gold bracelets, and inscriptions of suns surrounded by 12 rays. The same symbol found on the medallion hidden beneath Rome. He wrote in his notes, "These people were not Egypt's students. They were its ancestors." But that sentence never made it into the published report. Still, truth has a way of leaking through cracks. Over the next century, discovery after discovery began to surface. Ancient trade routes traced from the Nile to the Red Sea. Pottery showing contact with India and Arabia centuries before Rome existed. And carvings of black queens wearing crowns identical to the ones described in the myths of Queen Nari Cave. Each find tore a hole in the false history the world had accepted. And then, in 2022, a breakthrough. Satellite imaging over northern Sudan revealed geometric patterns beneath the dunes. Perfectly symmetrical, aligned with the stars of Orion and Sirius. Just like the old legends said Muanius had been. Beneath those sands lies a city older than history itself, an African Atlantis. And in its heart, archaeologists believe, rests the Great Pyramid of the First Sun, still sealed, still waiting. Some say the structure's electromagnetic readings are unlike anything ever recorded, suggesting power sources that shouldn't exist in the ancient world. Others dismiss it as coincidence. But when they dug deeper, they found something that silenced the skeptics. A black crystal fragment, polished smoother than any modern machine could cut. Tests showed it wasn't from Earth's surface. No known origin. Just light trapped in stone. The same kind of material ancient scrolls called the Heart of Ra. So maybe, the legends weren't legends after all. Maybe Murmonius was not just the first civilization, but the first to harness the energy of the sun itself. And now, the world is slowly waking up. Across Africa, young historians, researchers, and storytellers are reclaiming what was stolen. In classrooms, on YouTube, in music, in film, they're digging not with shovels, but with truth. Every video, every story, every voice that says, "We were first," adds one more brick to the temple of memory. Because history isn't just something you read in a book. It's a heartbeat. And right now, that heartbeat is getting louder. They tried to erase Africa from history, but the truth survived in the rhythm of the drum, in the songs of the ancestors, in the faces of every black child who looks to the sun and feels something ancient stirring inside. The world once called this the Dark Continent. But darkness is only the absence of light. And Africa was the light all along. When you walk through those ruins today, you can almost hear the whisper on the wind. We are the children of the first sun. We are the memory that cannot die. And maybe that's why you're hearing this story now. Because you were meant to. Because this isn't just history. It's inheritance. And as the sand shifts once more, the kingdom of the first sun rises again. Not from stone, but from the voices of those who remember. The ones who refuse to let the fire go out. The ones who see through the silence. Because history books may have left it out, but we're writing it back in.